2% for the tech-heavy index at this last check. And as for the S&P 500, gains there as well of close to 14 points. For the S&P, that's about a 1.6% gain. Advancers, decliners, the market internals, we will show you those, and we will show you those in a moment. But the 10-year note, 4.96, so backing off a little bit there, which is also contributing to a little bit of the rally that we've been able to see for stock prices. Let's go to Bob Pisani at the New York Stock Exchange and find out more. Bob, certainly an initial reaction off of those headlines.
Yeah, this is the kind of day I really love, Erin, because this is a tremendously complicated market right now. There's a lot of cross currents and a lot of moving parts. Let's talk about what was happening just prior to 2 o'clock Eastern time when those minutes came out. The market was coming off of its highs. It was drifting lower because oil was spiking up in the minutes before 2 o'clock Eastern time. There was a little bit of concern down here, and I was hearing about maybe oil was going to spoil our beautiful little rally that they were having here down on Wall Street. Then the 2 o'clock minutes came out, and the story down here, and this is why I love stock traders, they simplify everything, and maybe too simplified, but the bulls are pushing the story right now that the debate is on at the Fed about when to stop raising rates. That's how they're reading the Fed minutes, and that's why the market is rallying back here and ignoring the higher oil rates, okay? So we've got a very dynamic situation. All of this is happening now in the middle of the day after a lot of complicated things happened in the morning. Let's just very quickly summarize where we're at. The markets had their initial rally prior to the open. They rallied on some lower than expected economic numbers here overall. The key numbers were the weaker core producer price index and weaker housing numbers that came out earlier on. Of course, core PPI, indication of inflation at the wholesale level, that was weaker housing. And remember, generally weak economic numbers are greeted positively by the stock market these days. Second thing that happened around 11:45 Eastern time. I'll get it right, folks. I'm in different time zones. Janet Yellen, the head of the San Francisco Federal Reserve, came out, said Fed funds are close to a neutral stance and that she was highly alert to too much tightening. Again, the bulls have the same story down here. There's a debate going on about when to stop raising rates. That's the key point at this point. We saw interest rate sensitive stocks rally when Yellen made these comments. The overall market rallied, but in particular interest rate sensitive stocks that have had a hard time recently. The Dow Jones Utility Average, for example, moved to the upside intraday. Housing stocks, which had been down on the poor housing start, actually rallied on Yellen's report overall. You see the move up there in the utilities. That's certainly important here. Finally, the other big story are commodity stocks. They are continuing to rally. There are many that are sitting at new highs, historic highs. Freeport-McMoRan and the Copper Group came out with their numbers. They were blowout numbers, twice as strong as expected. Phelps Dodge, Southern Copper, and all the iron ore companies like Billiton. I'll just close with the brokerage stocks. That group is breaking out too. We have new highs right across the board. Merrill had a great report, but they're not hitting new highs. Look at Jefferies, Bear, Goldman, Lehman, Morgan Stanley, all at new highs. Jeffrey announcing a 2-for-1 stock split, and Erin, BAFO numbers from them as well. That's an historic high for that company. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Bob. And as Bob was talking, just to make sure everyone knows, the number to watch is 171 points on the Dow. If we are up more than that by the end of the day, it will be the best single point advance since October 28th of 2005. That's the latest coming in from Rich Peterson at Thompson Financial. So keep an eye on that 171 level. Meanwhile, speaking of all-time highs, oil, look no further.